Hi folks, Juan here from Physical Media EU, and today I want to talk about the controversial Terminator 2 on 4K. Hello again, and thanks for tuning in for this review of Terminator 2 on 4K. But first of all, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel if you're interested in physical media, especially Blu-rays and soundtracks in vinyl reviews. Now, let's take a look at the cover here, but this review actually I want to have a little bit of a different format. I will start by saying what I think of it and if you should get it or not, and then I'll tell you why. And I say this because the reasons of why this Blu-ray is so controversial actually can bias your opinion about watching the movie. So let's begin by the verdict first. So in my opinion, if you like Terminator 2 and you have a Blu-ray, I think you should upgrade the movie if you can find it for a good price. Of course, Terminator 2 is a very good movie and it has had tons of releases, like very nice steelbooks and so on, so you can find a very wide range of prices. And the most expensive one, at least I think, maybe are not worth it, but might depend on how much you are willing to pay for fancy packaging. So what I think is, if you can find this movie for a good price, you should get it and you should be the judge yourself to see if you like it or not. Because of course one can hear many opinions, you will hear now my opinion, but I keep finding people on the internet who actually watch the movie after knowing all the technical problems that it has or may have, and they still think like, hey, this is actually not so bad. And also a lot of people who actually are not aware of all these issues and they actually think it's great. So that's why I recommend that you're on the latter group, watch the movie, be ready to enjoy it, and then you can be the judge yourself if you like it or not. Now, yes, let's move on and talk about why this release is so controversial. But before, let's take a quick look at this release, which is a standard one. This is a release from the UK, so all this text here is in English. Here, for example, from the cover, I think in the picture here, it looks like the light is kind of okay, but when you see it in real life, I think it's a little dark. But because I have this extra light, maybe it looks like it's not that bad. But I think in real life, it looks a little bad. On the inside, it's a little better. Here you can see, right, it's just a conventional standard release. And inside, you can find both discs, the 4K and the Blu-ray, and it also comes with this little ad here. Now, the problem with this 4K release actually came from the very beginning, and with the transfer. The problem is that they use the transfer from the 3D Blu-ray instead of making a new one in 4K. So that's the first thing. I'm not sure why was the reasoning of this decision, although rumors on the internet say that actually this happened by mistake. Besides that, the movie suffered a couple of modifications that actually didn't sit very well. The first of them is the color grading. The colors are oversaturated. You can easily see this in many of the scenes, which I'm not sure, but I think that it kind of looks like they tried to gave it a look of more of a more modern film, but actually it doesn't look good at all. It looks very inaccurate. But besides that, the movie some alterations. For example, there are two scenes, one of them where the T-1000, when he's pursuing the Terminator and John Connor, there's a scene there's an error actually in the original movie when the rooftop of the truck gets like ripped off because of the bridge. So that part got fixed there, and at least myself, I couldn't see the difference when I was watching the movie, and I never even realized the error on the original one. So I think that's probably a welcome fix, but for many purists, right, that's a John Lucas style of edition, and they don't like it. But in my opinion, I didn't actually realize of that difference. And then there are a couple of scenes where the face of the Terminator was edited because maybe the stand-double face was too noticeable before, and then they just like put like the proper Arnold Schwarzenegger face on it. So I think these editions were actually all not that bad. But there were other things, right, like the color grading, which was oversaturated in many scenes, that I think looks a little off for being such an old movie that it would look like that. But again, not everyone sees this thing, so maybe you don't even care about this. Then another important thing is the lack of HDR. This is something that you cannot see in most scenes, I think, but there are parts, especially like the darker ones, where probably an HDR treatment would have helped the picture a little bit more. So that's also a little sad that was not included. So with all these things, I think that the picture still looks very clear, And lastly, and one of the most criticized things about the picture of this movie is the DNR. DNR stands for digital noise reduction, which was probably a little abused in this movie. And for example, sometimes when they make a first shot on the face of the Terminator, I mean Arnold Schwarzenegger, it looks a little waxy and looks off, and it really shouldn't look like that in a 4K film, because the 4K actually should give you detail and the DNR actually removes it. So with all these things said, I think yes, the movie has a lot of technical problems, and for those who have a trained eye, yeah, you can see the things and probably that will affect the way you enjoy this film. Now, for many other viewers, I'm not sure that everyone will realize of these things. That's why I try to give my verdict at the beginning of the video and not after saying all these things, because I didn't want to bias anyone. Now, audio quality, and here is where actually I had a problem. I thought actually that the audio quality was pretty bad and lacking detail. So I have a soundbar, like a very nice one with Dolby Atmos and so on, and if you listen in a low volume, you don't hear anything but only the explosions. If you raise the volume, it was still very hard to many of the dialogues. And I tried different presets on the soundbar, like none of them really gave me a good experience. And then I tried using headphones, and the headphones actually was the only thing that was like kind of okay. So I think to me that was the biggest of the downsides of the disc. And I feel like many of the reviews that are out there about this release don't talk so much about the audio quality, but more focus on the picture. So again, my recommendation is watch the movie first, be your own judge. If you can find it for a good price, you don't lose much if you don't like it, but now you know. So that's it for the review. If you like it, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, you can follow me on Instagram with the same handle, Physical Media EU. And you can tell me in the comments what do you think of the 4K version of Terminator 2. Thank you so much for watching, and see you all at Okidos.